And that gets us to the main feature. Tonight's speakers are Lisa Sasso and her husband John. Lisa is known as the MedDev Coach, that's for medical development, and you can find her website by going to www.meddevcoach.com, or if that's too hard to remember, just go to www.lisasasso.com, Sasso spelled with 2 S's. Lisa is an executive coach for aspiring leaders and executives in the medical device and life sciences fields on achieving personal and professional goals, maintaining work-life balance, and reaching their greatest potential following their passion. She's an entrepreneur in novel medical devices. She was CEO and co-founder of Rad-Eye Medical Systems, which was a high-tech medical device company specializing in innovative cardiology products. It's a wholly owned subsidiary of a national firm. She grew the company from inception to profitability with revenues of $29 million in 6 years. In 2004, she was recognized and ranked number 28 out of 100 women-led businesses in Massachusetts. She's an inspiring motivational speaker who has delighted audiences including entrepreneurs, business leaders, professionals working with others, people in transition, and students. She has a BBA in marketing and a BA in economics from the University of Massachusetts and an MBA from Bentley. And finally, she's also past president of the Medical Device Group, or MDG, of Boston, and she's still an active board member as she has been for the last 10 years. And John has also spent a lot of time in medical devices. The last 25 plus years he's been in high technology leadership positions, and 15 of these years were medical device industry. He's now an independent consultant assisting small medical device companies with product development and commercialization. In addition to supporting quality systems, manufacturing operation, human financial and customer service and support functions in his role as project manager, he's been intimately involved in defining requirements for and selecting outside service providers, primarily electrical, mechanical, and software, to assist with specific technical issues and other development challenges. Past companies that he's been with, besides Rad-Eye Medical, funny how that works, has been Noventa Medical, Stroll Medical, Emotics, Alpha Medical. He's managed projects with people to achieve results on time and budget. He's got an MBA from Bentley and an MSCE and BSCE from Tufts. So please welcome John and Lisa Sasso. Microphones. Oh.
Use that between the two of us.
Okay.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
First of all, I want to thank you for coming out because I know tonight is the Patriots game and I am a fan as well. So we'll do our best to inform you in a abbreviated way so we can technically try to get out a little early so that, who would like to watch the game tonight? Raise your hand. Okay, that's all I needed to say. Because the way it's going to work tonight, let me just give you an outline of what's going to happen. I'm going to first talk to you about the medical device industry and why you might be interested in working in it in Boston. Then we're going to talk about hard skills and soft skills. Well, clearly, the electrical engineer with the master's in electrical engineering and operations management background is going to go through hard skills and tell you how to apply your skills that you have into medical device settings. Then I'm going to do soft skills because I think the majority of you are probably engineers, right? If you're an engineer, stand up. Okay, I just
the other way around.
Wait, no, that's okay. I really want to see. Okay, if you're mechanical, raise your hand. Okay, put it down. If you're electrical, raise your hand. Okay, and if you're a software engineer, okay, that basically covers most of the room. So I am so the minority here. We have one female engineer that's here, so when we get to soft skills, I'll try to be easy on you, but I gave you a card because I want you to leave with something. We're gonna work on a little elevator pitch tonight for each of you. And also, I have other exercises and things I can do for you to help refine some of those embedded engineering skills. But I will be very cautious of how many or how much we do depending on time, because I'll be sensitive to the game. So I just want to tell you, I'm prepared for lots or little. It's really up to you guys. And what I really want to do right now is find out, what are your expectations? Because John and I both have over 20 years experience each in medical devices. And it's most important that we know why you came and what you want. Because we have the answers and we have a lot of information to share, but it's most important to understand the requirements, right? Your engineers, what's the requirements? So does anybody want to be so bold to tell me why they came tonight? Yes.
So I'm in med devices. You
Okay.
didn't say biomedical engineers, too.
Oh, I'm sorry, in biomedical engineers. Anybody else that's in biomedical? There's one behind you and one over there. There's three of you.
Excellent. So my question was, Boston's a big, it's a great place actually to be doing business in med devices. My question was, how do you find out about the medical device startups? Because it's easy to find the big companies, right?
Mhm.
But how do you sort of go about, just finding where there are med device startups, and obviously who's looking for help?
Okay, I'll give you some ideas and talk about, I'll make sure we include that. Anybody else with any special requests? Yes.
How do you break into the medical device area if you haven't been, because my experience is that people will ask you, how many years of experience do you have doing medical devices? And if the answer is 1 or 2, it's usually not enough. Usually, is it true that they want 5 or 10, they want a lot of experience dealing with the FDA and all these other groups required to get the product developed? If you don't have that background, but you still may have the background for what they're trying to do, but you don't have the other background.
I
And
can
that's a big problem.
I can absolutely assure you that we can answer that question, and we will answer that question tonight. Okay, other questions? Yes.
I've been an engineer for years, and
For how many years?
exactly. Never had any experience with medical devices except maybe as a patient, and so I'm kind of looking for 101. That
Okay.
30,000-foot view of.
And that's how I'm gonna
traction.
start. I'm gonna give you the big picture up front, so that you'll actually really be more excited about getting into medical devices and wanting to learn more about it. All right? Any other burning needs? Because see, if I know your questions up front, I can make sure we incorporate it, and then we don't have to have an extended Q&A at the end, and you guys get out to see the game. So, yes, Chris.
How does one find out the needs of the medical industry in regard to software professionals? Because I'm sure when new companies are formed, they may already have a circle of connections that will somehow fill the gaps. But if someone is pursuing a career or interested in how embedded software or software needs of the medical industry, how does one find these opportunities?
And, well, let me just answer that up front. We will talk a little bit about networking, and we'll talk about really finding your referral network. And when you, I know you're starting to go to MDG, and I've seen you there, and we'll talk about that as well. There's certain people, like you say software engineering, and I can name 2 or 3 people that you should be calling and talking to, or that I could introduce you to. And that's what it's about, having people making warm introductions to you. Because if you just call them out of the air, they might not take your call and might never return your email. But if somebody that knows them personally refers you, you can, and then talking to them directly and saying to these people that are successful in that area. How'd you get there? Can we have a cup of coffee? And never be afraid to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. So, okay, yes.
So I've been in the medical device industry my whole career, and
Congratulations.
and working for companies. I've been out on my own for about a year and a half now, and so I have like a ton of experiences, like all over the place. I've done this, that at startups, and 510Ks I put in, and stuff like that. So I'm looking for like that elevator pitch that says, real succinctly what I've done and how I can help, kind of thing. And just,
Okay, well, guess what? We're definitely gonna do that, because I have a little easy formula that I'm gonna have you, that's your index card, because I want you to leave and go home with something. So when your wives, I can say wives because everybody here's the guy, except for Celine, sorry. But when you go home and your spouse, significant other says to you, what did you do tonight? You can say, listen to this, babe. We had some fun tonight at IEEE, and I have a new elevator speech. All right, so if those are any other major pressing needs that we want to make sure, yes?
I've been working on and off in medical device industry since 2007. I'm an independent consultant, embedded software consultant, and I'm still struggling to get consistently projects in medical device industry. I do get projects in other industries, but I like to do more medical device. So which resources should I use to penetrate the market more frequently?
I can tell you we're going to absolutely address that, and John Sasso is prepared for that question. So, okay. Without further, is that good? Is everybody, all the main, I think I got the expectations, I know the questions. I think we're going to cover all that, and we should be doing well. Let's start with the industry. This is a great industry to be in. And how many companies do you think in Massachusetts are medical device companies? Take a guess. Okay, Ron?
480.
Oh, how did you know? Were you on my website?
I read your website.
Oh, okay, you read my website. There are 480 companies. That is correct. I said to my husband we should have brought, candy kisses to pass out. He actually thought that was a little childish, but candy works.
Good idea.
All right, that's correct. So in those 480 companies, where do you think Massachusetts ranks in the whole United States in terms of employment of medical device professionals?
Number one.
Number two?
Third.
Three. Number one.
Number two?
One.
Top three.
Wow, you guys are good. Believe it or not, California is still number one. Okay, for many, many years we were number two. Little Massachusetts was number two. We've slightly slipped to number three. Besides, next to Minnesota, which is at 6.3, and we're at 6.0. So it's a very small differential between the two. See, I can talk engineering, Colin. But Massachusetts is third in the, but third is still amazing when you think of the industry. So why do you think little Massachusetts is third? Any idea? What do we have?
Hospitals.
We have the best hospitals in the country. And what else do we have?
Medical schools?
A couple of schools.
We have the best universities. And when you look at something like college, percent of people that go to college in Massachusetts, what do you think it is? Any type of, it could be associate degree or bachelor's degree, but what do you think?
50%.
66% have some form of college education. 45% have a bachelor's, and more than 25% have degrees in STEM. And you guys all know what STEM is, right? Okay, who's gonna tell me what it is? I don't have Hershey's Kisses, but who's
Science, technology,
Science,
engineering.
technology, engineering, and mathematics. Okay, so we have these great schools. They're focused on the sciences and the hard skills. So that's why Massachusetts ranks so high, and with the hospitals. So you have great hospitals, great schools. What else do we have here? What do the startups need to start up?
Money.
Money. So what do we need?
VCs.
VC. Where do you think we rank in terms of VCs in the country?
Number 3.
Three.
Number 2. Number 2. I mean, that's not a bad position to be in. So when you're looking at these things, the hospitals, the school systems, VC, and then you look at something like patents. Are patents important? Do you think patents are important to medical device companies? Of course they are. Where do you think Massachusetts ranks in terms of patents? Third. You guys are really good. How many people went to the Mass Medics Conference, the 19th annual in May? No? None of you? Okay, how many people read the transitioning page on my website? And, oh, I see a couple hands, all right. But still, that's incredibly good, very good memory. So, and then this might surprise you. Where do you think Massachusetts is in terms of exports?
Export of what?
Exports for medical devices.
Number 2.
Any other guesses? We're not second.
Number 1.
We're number 1. Yes. We are number 1 in medical device exports as a percent of total exports, which is 19%. And Massachusetts is first, followed by Tennessee, Indiana, California, and Texas. But that's huge. So when you put all these pieces together, and this isn't even saying, this is only medical device. This isn't pharma, this isn't biotech, this is only medical device. If you added up those other 2 segments, by far, Massachusetts, because of, with our hospitals, the number of people that are employed in healthcare is just ridiculous. It's wonderful. I mean, and that's our industry. So I'm so excited that you are excited about being in that industry. And whether you're in it now or you want to get in it, you can see that there's definite growth in the industry. And I have some other statistics that might interest you. Well, I should tell, what else, with startups and some of the bigger companies we have, Massachusetts did extremely well with M&A, mergers and acquisitions. We have had 2 of the biggest mergers that, bigger than anybody else in the country. Does anybody know what they are? Can you name one? And they've happened in the last 2 years. One this year, one last year. Does anybody know?
Medtronic.
Medtronic, Covidien, exactly. Anybody know how big that was? How much?
Several billion.
Yeah, several billion. 42.9 billion. Just a small little number. And does anybody know what the other merger and acquisition that happened in 2014? I'll give you a hint. Thermo Fisher. Anybody? Life Technologies. Who said that? See, if I had my candies, Dave, it'd be right there with you. And that represented 13.6 billion. But that's 2 major M&As that came out of Massachusetts. So, and in total, there was 16 acquisitions worth over $50 million, and 10 of them were venture funded. So, and the projected growth in medical devices, and if you took an CAGR, an average, over looking at 2013 to 2018, what do you think the projected growth is in medical devices?
35%.
No, it's not 35%.
I just threw a number.
That's really big growth. I mean, most things have grown by like 0.5% or 1%. He says 35%.
8%?
Not far off, close, close. 6% growth. But on an average growth rate, that's significant. That's hugely significant. So I just want you to keep, you don't have to keep all those facts and figures, and a lot of that stuff I do have up on my website, on my transition page, because I give you information about the industry so that you'll have that if you're interviewing, if you're doing things and you want these facts. I also run a transitioning group and share different skill sets each month to help people. So, but it's just a resource. My website's a resource to people. So I think, and because I figured a lot of people would be engineers in the room and many would be electrical, I looked at the segments of medical. And the biggest segment, as you would imagine, is just surgical and medical equipment. And just surgical and medical makes up 42% of all devices, which that makes sense. Like almost half are devices for that. But what you might not realize is 22.7, almost 23%, is electromechanical, medical, and electrothermal is 23%. Like, to me, that was shocking. Like, I wasn't expecting it to be that high. And then the remaining 19% is surgical supplies, and then there's also a bunch of other little things. But those are the three major buckets. So for the electrical engineers, that's a significant piece of that business. So your skill set is definitely warranted and needed in Boston. A few more things that I can't remember off the top of my head. I think that, if you can, just from looking at that as a broad overview, you can see why, people make choices. And when they get into medical, a lot of times people don't just go into this field because there's a job. Many people, if you ask them, and there's been surveys done, people that are in medical, a lot of people go in there because they want to improve patient care, do something better for society, help something. There's altruistic reasons in addition to getting the paycheck that makes work much more doable and much more enjoyable. So just keep that in mind if you're new to it. The money is there in medical as well, so I'm not going to kid you. But there's a lot of feel good about doing it. So without further ado, I've given you an overview of the market, and so you guys have a picture of where you hopefully will fit in that market. And then I just want to start talking to you about skill sets, because I said we're going to talk about hard skills and soft skills. And John is definitely an expert on hard skills, and I would say probably 95 to 99%, 99.9% of you guys are going to be experts on hard skills. So let me define what I mean. Hard skills, this includes a person's technical skill set, their ability to perform functional tasks. So when you think of hard skills, it's almost like your IQ, okay? Now, in contrary, the things that I'll talk to you about are more the soft skills, and which are broadly, go across different titles and different industries. And but the hard skills for any job is what will get you the interview. But you need the soft skills to stay in the job and to be effective and to be successful. So with that, I'm going to introduce, or I'm going to invite John to come up here and to give us an overview on hard skills and how to apply your hard skills to the industry and to new positions in a way to think about it from his perspective. And John. just turn yourself off.
I did. Thank you, Lisa.
Good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. Okay, great. I had a couple slides, but unless you're okay, I'm just going to walk through. It's kind of more of my notes than anything else, but we'll kind of walk through it. If anybody wants these at the end, I'd be happy to share them with you. So it's just interesting sitting here listening to Lisa. I kind of, as I said, put my thoughts together. But one thing I want to keep in the back of everybody's mind as we're talking about this, and I had an interesting conversation with a few folks before this meeting started, is the impact of the kind of the international scene. One thing maybe Lisa didn't mention or wasn't clear, we've both done a lot of work for international companies. Radi Medical happened to be a subsidiary of a Swedish company. Neoventa, one of my prior companies, was another Swedish company. I've done work for companies in Germany. Be interesting to note how that would contrast with 30 years ago when we were first kind of all getting into the industry, where that kind of stood. So I just want to keep that in the back of our minds. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, especially in the concept of getting work and where your target market is. My perspective today is that on projects that I've been doing work with, I have no qualms reaching out to consultants all over the world, especially if I know they have the right skills, and I think that's going to be something everybody wants to hear about. So I guess the first question, let me ask everybody here. So why would a medical device firm want to use a consultant? I mean, kind of in general, what are some of the things that you think of when you're understand, okay, why is someone going to be reaching out? Anybody want to throw a couple thoughts across the table? Sure.
In my experience, sometimes when they are short of some specialized experience of some sort, they hire a consultant as opposed to a regular employee.
Sure.
However, more often than not, that could be the reason why they hire consultant, because consultants bring one specific area of expertise which they don't have in-house.
Okay. Other thoughts?
Increase bandwidth on a project.
Increased bandwidth, sure, certainly.
Hit a wall.
Okay. Excellent.
They understand basically the process gates,
What do you mean by that?
stage gate process.
So the consultant understands
Yes.
that side, and the company doesn't?
Well, they probably understand it, but the consultant might have a better grasp on it.
Okay. In the back?
A lot of products have very long lifetimes, so sometimes manufacturers will outsource continuing development or redesigns of old products.
Okay, so for continuous improvement, sure.
Well, they need an independent opinion on something.
Okay, independent audit opinion, sure.
I think sometimes they bring in consultants at the last moment to speed up the product release as well.
That never happens.
That never works.
Okay. Those are all great, and I don't think that there's no wrong answers. I mean, certainly I think I can probably think of an example of pretty much everything that you stated, including the one you mentioned as well, which is an area that I get brought in a lot on, is trying to help companies improve their process from a design control and FDA compliance perspective. Bear with me, I didn't bring my reading glasses, so I said, so solve specific problems, create ancillary or accessory devices. So sometimes you have a main product, but you don't necessarily want to spend the time on a separate product. I'll give you an example of that as well. Somebody wants to outsource a complete subsystem, so they haven't brought in the expertise and they need somebody to do something specific. Perform specialized testing, whether it be qualification testing or some other aspect of manufacturing test or even verification and validation. And I think, I can't remember who it was that said, but certainly the short-term skill in lieu of hiring somebody full-time, obviously, is a critical piece. So those are all great answers, and I think that certainly represents the gamut in many ways. So as Lisa said, I want to try to help you understand how to leverage your skills on the hard side and bring you into medical devices. Certainly, I think it's important to understand those are areas. As someone that's brought in a lot of engineers on a lot of different projects, I can tell you there's no question about it. You have to start with the deep technical skills. If you can't demonstrate to the company that you have those skills, then it's a non-starter. But that, as we said, it's only part of it. So I want to give you a couple of examples. And again, I don't think this is going to be too far-fetched, but from the perspective of both hardware, electrical, mechanical, software, I've certainly had folks look at, I'll take a more recent example, where we wanted a hardware engineer that would do some digital design, but we wanted them to know exactly a specific Intel Atom processor. Well, how did this particular device work? And so you would think, oh, that's going to be a difficult thing, but you can actually go out there and survey the industry and find people with those specific skills. Or we were looking for a software programmer with embedded skills to work on an Atmel interface processor. Okay, where do you find those people? We were looking for somebody to help us design ultrasound for fetal monitoring, and very specifically having done both the hardware side, the design side, as well as even some of the compliance and criteria on it. These are all types of problems, I think someone mentioned, when you hit a wall and people are looking for help in identifying the right people. Without having those deep technical skills, that's the first place. So I think it was you said that was asked, well, how do you jump into the industry without that having the medical experience? If you don't have the technical experience first, then that's a non-starter. So I think, let me ask just quickly, how many here have actually done work in medical devices? So quite a few, okay. Let me just see here. So I want to talk about a few things to consider. So I'll talk a bit from the client perspective. So as a client, as a person hiring consultants in, so what are some of the things that I would consider or want to consider? So the first question again is, do you have the right skill set? Are you experienced in those specific areas that I want performed on the particular project? How am I going to determine if you can perform that task successfully? Even though you say you have those specific skills, how do I judge and measure and assess your ability for success? How long, how much? Are you going to provide me the deliverables that I need that are consistent with the company's process? The expectations, whether it be for things that turn into FDA, whether it's items that get generated to support a manufacturing process? How do I know that you understand all of that? And how will it impact the cost, the time to manufacture? So those are questions that, as a client, I want to know when I'm having a discussion with you. Do you understand all that? How am I going to assess all that? It is, clearly it's about having the skills, but all those other things are important to me. Let me ask you guys, as a consultant, you want to add something to that?
In my experience, in interviews, they do ask whether I have IEC and ISO medical device standard experience, like the 62304 and
Sure.
485 are the most commonly asked standards. Do you understand, or do you have experience or
Correct.
training in that and all that? So that comes quite often, just like in defense and other standards.
We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute, so you're a great lead-in. But let me ask you, so, all right, so I've stated a few things. I mean, there's more, but I've stated a few things. As a consultant, tell me, what are the things you want to know? What do you want to know about this?
How do you break into the medical device field?
I apologize. So you're talking to a client, so let's set up the scenario. You've seen a client has a need, they've talked to you about it, maybe you've seen it on a consultant request, maybe it's through a recruiter, maybe it's a company that someone referred you to. You're going to have a conversation with them. The things I just mentioned are the things as a client I'm interested in knowing. What do you want to know? You're going to have that conversation with me, and what are the questions you're going to ask me? Or what are the things that are in the back of your mind that you're concerned about? Go ahead, Alex.
Can you pay me?
Can you pay? That's a good one.
You can't ask this overtly, but you probe for a disconnect between expectations and reality.
Very good.
I want to know the team dynamic.
Team dynamics,
Yeah,
okay.
because without that, I find invariably customers almost know the answers, but there's something in the team that's preventing them from getting there.
Depends on the problem, but it's a good insight, very good insight.
They have basically technical specifications documented, project schedule, outline, outline
Okay.
basically the deliverables and milestones.
Okay. There's one piece I was looking for. You touched on it basically. I'll hold on. We'll come back to you in a minute.
Deliverable documentation.
Deliverables, that's true, right? What do you want?
I want to see if I can figure out what their real requirements are, because sometimes what they're asking for isn't really going to solve their problem.
So,
An expert opinion.
can I twist your words a little bit? Definition of the problem?
Yeah.
Really clear definition of the problem?
What is the problem?
I understand. I know you talk about requirements, and those are the right words to use, by the way. But one of the things that I certainly find as on the other side is, well, what's the problem? So I'll give you an example. So I was brought into a company. Actually, a woman brought me in to help them on the commercialization side. Oh, we're just in the process of getting this product out to market, and through the process, I understood that we also need some help in transferring the product into manufacturing. And so, getting down to the company, they needed more than help transferring the manufacturing. They didn't actually have any documentation at all on the product development side. So, trying to really understand and get to the heart of what their problem really was is important for any consultant. And in any industry, it doesn't matter whether it's medical or some other sort of high tech, you really want to get a really good, this Engineering 101, I think it was the first course I took at Tufts was problem solving. The first block, define the problem.
Yeah, I'm a recruiter, and I always say, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you.
Absolutely. I think, as a project manager, when I talk to consultants, I absolutely want the consultant to ask the tough questions, because then I know that they really understand and have got the battle. Remember the question I asked, how do I know you're going to be successful? Part of that is I know you have the experience and the skills that you've gone through this before, and you know what to expect. That they may not always have all the money they say. They may not have defined the problem correctly. They may not have, they may have team dynamic issues that they're not telling you about. The more you probe, in a respectful and professional way, I should add, the better. Because you don't want to be the one sitting there stuck at the end of the day expecting certain deliverables that you just can't get to. Anybody want to add anything to that?
I was thinking one of the things that I would look for is, in my judgment, what's their likelihood of success? Because it doesn't help me to have a bunch of failed companies in my resume.
Okay. So let's switch gears just a little bit. I do want to talk about medical device experience. For those that have been in the medical device industry, so I'll give you another example here. So as a project manager in medical devices, a while back ago, I used to go and try to apply for jobs in the pharmaceutical side of the house. How much luck do you think I had? Zero.
Pharma hires pharma.
Pharma hires pharma, device hires device. It's just, it's unfortunate. Now, there's been a little movement because of the combination device world, but there's still a relatively kind of firewall, if you will, between the two. Medical device experience, if you have it, is an add value in a couple ways. One of the things that I would say, what does it do for you? Why is it, again, I'll ask you guys, why is it important? Why do you think it's important as a client with a consultant to say, well, why would I want you to have medical device experience? You brought up something about standards. That was a good one. What else? Any other good ideas or thoughts?
Well, in fact, if you've done it before, if it's something, first of all, I'd want to know what product you're building. Because that, by the way, would just tell me right off the bat what kind of skills you would need.
Okay.
In a broad sense. So, you have to be able to find out how you can create a better product based on your knowledge of the product that they have now.
Okay, so you can
And
bring
that
and
would,
leverage
show
skills
that,
on prior
yeah.
products that have
Right,
some
that
relative.
may not always be possible, but if you're doing a hot device or some other device, some experience you've had doing, say, an infusion pump, or
Right.
something like that, that gives them, you know, then you can ask the right question, because you know you've done it before.
Sure.
So I guess what you're looking for is, how can I fit into the team?
That's a little different, but I mean, your primary point is right on.
Because if you're a consultant, you're being brought in as part of a team because you have some expertise.
Sure.
Either your coding
From
experience
a skill
or-
experience, okay.
Yeah, from a,
Yep,
but
okay.
you maybe, some companies would still want you to have FDA or having been through the process.
Sure.
So if that is what you're, they're going to the client, you find that out right away. Because maybe they even check it out before they even have an interview anyway.
I mean, usually that is something that does come up early in the process. And certainly, I always like to know, am I dealing with somebody that has worked in the industry? Because it eases things. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about terminology, but that's
Right.
one thing.
Yeah.
Other points? Yes, sir. And I
So-
apologize, because even though I have my nice glasses on, I still can't read everybody's name unless I would be.
Alan?
Alan, okay.
Having the mindset or understanding that it's a heavily regulated industry, I mean, it ties in with the FDA, but just understanding that environment. So if you're a coder and, like the screen background, somebody wants to change from blue to red, you just go in and change one thing in code. But, and I'm sure it's in other industries like this, but for medical, it's not just going in, it takes like 5 minutes to change and recompile. But in medical, it's like 2 weeks, there's a whole train of documentation
Exactly.
that starts out with.
But by the way, I have to ask this question before I lose this. Have folks here, how many people in this room have worked for the government? Defense contractors or, okay. I worked for MITRE for 8 years before I went into medical, so I look at medical as easy.
I mean, another way of saying that, for many.
I apologize, can you just speak up just a little bit?
For many, just to rephrase what he's saying, for many companies, it really is, the process is as important as the product.
Yes. Well, as far as the FDA is concerned, it's only the process. They could care less about the product. If your process is good, they assume your product is, in some respects, at least from an audit standpoint. Yes, Celine?
I think you also need to understand from a medical standpoint what the application is being used for, right? If you understand the terminology, how you
Excellent.
understand what the end user is doing.
Excellent point. Yeah, in fact, so the first one I have on my list is application-specific understanding gives you insight into requirement and specification criticality. It's very important in the medical industry. The FDA actually demands it in their regulations. They want you to define your requirements and your specifications and segregate them. Some of them are more important than others. Very good. That's an excellent point.
Well, we've been in environments though where they're making a prototype and getting virtually everything working. Then they start with the requirements documentation and start to build it up again from scratch. And that seems to be, for us anyway, the increasing modality.
So I would say today, we can talk a little bit about process overall, but I would say today you're probably right. I've seen a lot, I mean, I've done a lot of startup work, especially of late. It's really been funding driven. The clients, the funders want to see a prototype, they want to have something they can touch and feel, and they want to see proof of concept, and you can do that without design control. And again, we'll talk about terminology in a minute, but you can do that outside of the FDA, if you will, but at some point you have to bring it in.
Right.
And when you bring it in, it's better to bring it in having thought through how do you apply it and meet those kind of terminologies and those pieces.
I guess what I was getting at is for those without the experience, there are some companies who will take you in without any experience at all if they're really looking for some key insights.
It's a good point. There's a lot of different ways, and I think I was going to kind of try to come back to that at the end, but that's a good point. Okay, let me just give you a couple more thoughts here. I think device-specific knowledge reduces the ramp-up time. I mean, especially you're bringing in a third party from the outside, they're not part of your company, they're not part of your team. You don't want them to be sitting there straggling along, or you spending a lot of time bringing them up to speed, whether it be on process or product. So having that background really reduces that time, because you're paying for that, right? You're a consultant, you're paying for them to come up to speed on your product to fix your problem. And knowing what the device firm needs allows you to speak the language and set the correct expectations. Gentleman in the back talked about deliverables. When you talk through the device side, you know what the deliverables are because they're kind of prescribed. You may, if you've worked in medical industry, you probably have read hundreds of SOPs, and they may all look different, but in the end, they're all the same. They all basically say the same thing. So I want to talk a little bit about process and terminology. Anybody ever spent time reading 21 CFR 820? Okay. Everybody know what 21 CFR 820 is? Okay. If you don't know what it is, you need to go read it. But don't spend, it's bathroom reading. It's falling asleep at night reading. It's dry governmental regulations. But 21 CFR 820 basically sets the stage for medical devices. And there's a specific subchapter, .30. It's called design controls. It's actually been around since '96, I want to say, somewhere in that time frame. And basically, design controls are what companies, medical device companies, have to comply with in order to bring a product to market. And I won't go through history. Some people here probably that know better than I do. But if you're going to work in the medical industry, you need to understand this terminology. Now in the US, that's FDA, 21 CFR 820. In Europe, it's ISO 13485 and the MDD. Basically, those two govern the world. If you go elsewhere, you're going to see deviations that aren't that drastic, perhaps. Processes may be different, Japan or China. So,
what I have seen is, searching through all these medical device standards and all that, within 62304, there are branches for different countries and regions of the planet. And same thing with 13485. You will see -1, -2, and things like that. And I had to encounter 62304 quite a bit.
Well, from a software perspective, 62304 is the governing document. There's one other thing I'll talk about in a minute that's also relevant to electrical folks.
1490.
Well, 14971 is risk management. I'm going to talk about risk management separate. I don't want to go too fast. I do want to talk about risk management. I also want to talk about 60601. Everybody know what 60601 is?
Safety, functional safety. Pardon? Functional safety. Functional safety.
It's medical device electrical safety. It's 60601. And there's a whole bunch of collateral standards, -1, -2, which is EMC, -1, -4, well, -1 is gone. 1-6, alerts and alarms, 1-8, usability, and there's a whole slew of -2s depending on, if you're doing blood pressures or if you're doing SpO2s. There's a whole bunch of safety standards out there that exist for each independent device. So to your point, if you are going into a medical device and they ask you to work on a patient monitor and it's going to have a piece of thing called the blood pressure monitor, you want to know 60601-2-49, I think? I may be wrong. So these are areas where, again, it isn't just about your technical experience, it's about the industry and some of the standards. I mean, IEEE obviously has a lot of standards and ANSI has standards, but these medical devices have actually adopted and created their own. A lot of them are European. We do have some here in the US. The other thing that's also critical, the FDA has gotten into the habit over the last few years of ramping up the guidance documents. There are a ton of them, especially on the side of software. There are numerous guidance documents on software. There's probably a guidance document on every type of major device you can think about. There's a lot of great material out there. So I guess we'll talk a little bit about recommendations in the end, but I just want you to understand I'm hoping that you're starting to hear, it's more than just, technical skills is important. but it's more than that. There's a lot more to it, and understanding these types of areas and terminology is important. So let me just ask quickly, how many people here are familiar with design controls? Okay. So if I said design history file, you know what I'm talking about?
DHF files.
Device master record? Device history record or product history record? Dave, you know everything.
No.
The difference between design verification and design validation? I'm going to ask you.
Oh, you want?
Yeah, tell me.
You have two basic input documents. One is the product.
So you have a design input document.
Yeah.
That's defined in design controls.
So there's the product requirements, and that's what the user needs.
Yep, there's a user needs. Yep.
That gets translated into a technical type of specification.
Design outputs.
Yeah, and then you test, your verification is you test your design outputs against the design inputs.
Okay.
And the validation is testing the
User needs.
user needs.
Cool. What he just said, you should all program into your memory, because it's the key thing that trips people up to understand. There's a lot more detail, but that's very, very important. That basic process that you have requirements or design inputs, you translate them into outputs, which are your specifications, which by the way effectively become your DMR, how you build the product. And then you have to verify that you've met those requirements. You only have to do that once. That's verification. Validation is that you've actually picked the right requirements, which means you satisfy your user needs. So these sound kind of esoteric, but they're critical. And when you're having that discussion with a client, and they ask you, we want you to do design validation, you need to say, oh, then I need to understand what the needs of the product are, because I can't do design validation against a specification. So,
Yeah, it's an important point to understand that you can have a product that basically does everything you said it was going to do from a specification point of view,
Correct.
but it doesn't meet the customer need.
Correct.
And that's the validation part. It doesn't
Correct.
actually solve the problem, or that's a little bit too generic. It doesn't quite do a specific address a specific need. So and it's a subtlety, and people talk about V&V.
Yes.
Which is verification validation. And they kind of lump it together.
They do that a lot on the software side, and there's reasons for that.
Yeah.
But in my mind, again, I come from kind of the purist perspective that verification is different than validation. Alan, you were going to say?
Yeah, so I sort of like a poster or something that I think kind of sums it up if you think about it. So verification is verification is doing things right, validation is doing the right thing. Yeah. That makes sense?
Yep,
And
okay.
It's kind of like the difference between management and leadership.
And leadership, yeah, that's a good one, yeah. And I won't belabor the point, but it's just, I guess my point here is that these types of things are going to show up through medical devices, and this is just one example. And it's important that you have at least a grasp of these types of concepts and processes. I mentioned the word SOPs, Standard Operating Procedures. Anybody here in the medical device field read an SOP, any SOP? Okay. Usually as a consultant, when you get involved, they're going to ask you to do things in their process, which means you need to understand their SOPs and what they do for design controls and how they process documentation and what their expectations are. These are the backdrop that you as a consultant are going to have to work with. It goes to team dynamics too, because you also want to understand, well, how structured are they and who's responsible for it. And I recently got involved with another medical device company who the engineers the actual development engineers never developed a medical product ever before. And it's just a recipe for disaster, because now you have to educate them on the process and then get them to understand why things are important and how to get through that. And even after 4 quality directors, it didn't really work out. So, All right, I want to spend just one more minute on risk management. You brought up ISO 14971. For those that are not familiar with that standard, Europe and even now the US, if you're going to develop a medical device, you better know that standard. You better understand it, or at least know what it's telling you, because risk management is now the key. It's what they want. It's what the regulators are looking for you to guide your product development. And actually, if you do it right, it can make it easier. And I'll give you an example. If you can demonstrate that you have a requirement that is not critical and that there's low risk, you can actually minimize your testing. And I think you were mentioning, Alan, that if I can go in and change the color to blue, but it may take me 2 weeks to do the documentation. Well, if you can demonstrate that the changing the color to blue isn't critical, and you can come up with an easier way of verifying and validating that, then from a risk management standpoint, you can actually improve and expedite your process. And that doesn't go just for your basic system, but all of these, even some of the standards, like 60601, which especially starts talking about EMC safety, which has become a much more critical standard these days, it's all based on risk management now. So using that, I have not seen a company use it to its fullest potential. Getting it down to brass tacks, though, for some of you folks that are designing boards or making mechanical parts or writing software, there are a number of tools that SIG 14971 espouses. One in particular, especially at that level, is FMEA, Failure Modes and Effects Analysis. It's a tool that you can basically use to go through your design and demonstrate why, for example, you've mitigated the risk. So, for example, on the software side, that maybe there's an infinite loop that the system might get into, and you can demonstrate from a design standpoint that you've addressed that, and that's a mitigation in your design. And that is actually something that medical device firms love, because it adds to their risk management file, it adds to the stability of the device. The same can be said on the electrical side with doing design FMEAs on electrical circuits and, for example, over surges and protections and powers and other processing type features or functions that may be prone to failure, boot up errors. I mean, you can do that type of an analysis. You can do it on the mechanical side with, thickness of the materials or material selections based on the environment. These are tool sets that you can use if you haven't used them. And you don't have to just use them in medical. You can use them across the board. But on the medical side, they are value add, and they may be things that your client's looking for. So it's another one I would certainly recommend that you take a look at. Sarah had a question? Oh, okay.
No, I just wanted to make a comment that I went through this training of risk management and all that, and it actually it has multiple components. One is the risk assessment, which probably you already alluded to, and there was another thing is you have to enlist all your failure modes, all levels of failure modes and things like that.
Sure. So it's one thing. I mean, again, depending on how you as a consultant are brought into the project and what piece you're doing, you may not necessarily get exposure to everything. Certainly the more you get exposure to, the better perspective, and I think that's something you as a consultant should be asking the client. Let me understand how this fits with everything else. We talked about applications and how that's important, but don't forget about these tool sets, these other things that you can bring to the table. Even though you may not be responsible for risk management on the entire project, you might be able to do something specific there. Even though you're not going to be the one taking the product out to do IEC 60601 testing, you're going to consider that in your design of your board on how it operates. So you're going to include in your operational functions testing ability to do that type of a test so that it can be done most effectively. So there are all sorts of things. It comes back to requirements. There's no question about it. But these pieces are important to medical device firms. So I just want to end with one last thing, which is, okay, so now what? What should you do? How are you going to get yourself into a medical device firm knowing all this? Again, you have to highlight what you know. You have to highlight your experiences. And clearly, even on the medical device side, if you've done medical work, the piece, even if it's just pieces, don't be afraid to leverage those, because those are things that people want to see. Again, my experience has been looking for people with very technical experiences. The first thing is I want to know that they can solve a problem, but I also want to make sure they have some level of understanding of the industry, because it does help. Ask questions. Interview, I think you said it, interview the company. Having those discussions, whether it be with a small startup in where are they in their process, what are they looking to achieve, what's their plan. Have those conversations to get a gauge for where they are and what they're really doing, and what problems and solutions you can bring to the table. I would certainly always say consider risk management, as I just talked about, in your approach. I think that's something that especially from a project management perspective and a device standpoint, I think that's important to highlight. Having an understanding of that really is important. And crafting, this may sound kind of mundane, but craft your proposals consistent with the client needs. If the client says, hey, I'm looking for the DMR, I want the deliverables to be Altium files, but I use OrCAD, how do you reconcile that, right? So you want to make sure you're, or if in the mechanical side you're using SolidWorks and they want it in Pro-E, I mean, you want to make sure you address their specific needs in your proposal so that they know that you've heard them. And I would say you really want to discuss the project in the terminology. You know, okay, this is a device, this is a design history file piece, these are the specifications, this is going to be a design input, this is going to be a design output, these are going to feed the DMR, this is a test case that might be used in verification. You talk about that with your client, they get it. They know that you understand what it is you're talking about. I talked a little bit at the very beginning about international. I want to just quickly jump back to that. I definitely think Lisa talked about the medical industry here in Massachusetts. I think everybody here recognizes that you're not just competing with other consultants here in Massachusetts, you are competing with consultants around the world. And I regularly have discussions with firms, whether it be in China or in India or someplace in Europe, or low-cost providers here in the United States, or contract manufacturers that specialize and then have a product development group. You are competing with the world. And so it behooves you to be able to leverage your experiences and demonstrate, because as far as I'm concerned, in the end, these companies are looking to get a product done on the most effective and efficient way possible. Yes, money is always important, no question about it, especially in today's environment. But they also need it done right, and if the product doesn't work, they're going to pay for it. It's pay me now or pay me more later. So I think you have to find a way to really demonstrate to your client that not only do you have the experience, not only do you understand what it is, but you can make it successful for them the first time and meet your commitment. And that in and of itself is a huge benefit to any company. So I'm going to stop right there. I apologize, maybe I took more time, but any other thoughts or comments anybody wants to add? If not, I think we'll have a quick time for Q&A at the end. But I tried to capture and address some of the comments and questions I think that were brought up. So certainly, if not, I'm happy to answer them.
I recently interviewed with a company in, I believe, Chelmsford, and even though I told them my experience of medical device standards and the type of devices I developed, they did not go with me. They went with some other candidate who had a specific experience with Bluetooth Low Energy, because that was key to their product. So I want to mention to you that it's not always medical device experience which helps. Sometimes they look for a very small, narrow experience of certain technology, and you lose your contract.
I don't want to underestimate this. I mean, everything I've said I think is true, and I certainly always look at it that way, and having the experience is important. But from a consulting standpoint, the first thing I'm looking for is that exact experience. And you're absolutely right. If I find somebody that has that particular processor experience or that particular code experience, they're the first person I'm gonna go to because the ramp-up time supposedly is shorter. And they know, and they've dealt with it, and they know the issues and special niches and problems that may come up. So there isn't a question about that. My point is, having known that, how do you then leverage yourself? Because you're not the only one. Yes?
When you're looking for a key person for a particular solution, I understand you first look in your network, but what's the second? If you can't find it in your network, where's your next go-to place?
So when I was working at Haemonetics, and this is okay to say, we were doing we were basically taking all of our 20-year-old products and bringing them up to be RoHS compliant and continuing to produce them. And we had a lot of old processors in the system, some that hadn't been made for probably 20 years. And so we literally went onto LinkedIn and typed in that particular processor and found 3 people in the world that had that experience listed on their resume. So I can attest to having done that. And one of them actually was available and did help us basically transition it. There isn't network. The folks that I work with, we talked a little bit at the beginning about medical devices versus pharma. Medical devices is a very incestuous industry. I can't say, I always tell people, between Lisa and I, we probably know somebody or know somebody that knows somebody at almost every company here in Massachusetts. Medical company, that is. It is all about the network and knowing and working with people that have done these things before, no matter where they're located. And as you work with good people, you bring those people back in with you. And that's how, today, that's how from an independent consultant perspective, that's how my business has grown, is working with people that I've worked with in the past that bring me back in. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to Lisa. She's going to get you back on the soft skills, so we'll go from there. Lisa.
Thanks, John. Great job. You can see why. What were you doing in 1984? Do you remember? 31 years ago? You don't, do you? Okay, I was in high school. I was a freshman. That was my first date. 31 years later, we're still together, so that says something. I guess I was just smart enough to marry the right thing. Smart enough to marry the right thing. I don't know, whatever it is. But I do know, if you decide to build a company, John was always the hard skills, and as you can see, has an excellent background. And that's why when Heinz asked me to speak, I said, well, yeah, but I have to do it. John, he's the electrical engineer. It just makes perfect sense. And I knew he'd have a wealth of knowledge to share with all of you. And when I built Ratty Medical, and I was the first employee, after I hired the second one, which was doing customer service, who really, I was going around the country getting people to buy my pressure wire sensors, these electrical sensors that looked at the heart to determine if you should treat or not for an angioplasty. My next door neighbor, Tina, would come to my house, would listen to the answer machine, would call Beth Israel, confirm the order, pack it up, put it between the doors, and FedEx would pick it up. Okay, that was in, all the equipment was in our basement. And we quickly were growing because we had a phenomenal product. It did improve patient care. It was a diagnostic and a therapeutic. It was something that made a difference, that showed you if you needed to treat, and then if you needed to treat, showed you optimum stent placement. It was an absolutely phenomenal product, and that's why I knew as we were growing I needed to hire somebody really good. And so I brought on John, and the two of us grew it together, and we took it from conception, from 0 to 28 million. And that company was sold later to St. Jude Medical for $250 million. So John definitely knows what he's talking about. And apparently, right. But the parent company was sold for $250 million, of which the US represented 70% of the revenue. So, anyways, now for soft skills. So now that you know how to do all your functional skills, and you know all your SOPs and your procedures and stuff like that, all we need to do is get you in tip-top shape to schmooze and get in the right places and say the right things to the right people. The most important thing you can do is advocate for yourself. I had a whole bunch of exercises, but the thing I really want you to leave here with, how many people are in transition right now in this room? Anybody? Okay, there's a good number of you. Okay, before I do the elevator speeches, for those in transition, let's do something called needs and leads, just for a couple minutes. Tell me your need. Is it a need for a position? Is it a need for a company? Is it a need for an individual? Anybody that's in transition? I'm giving you a shot here. Yes.
My need, what I do is transform, similar to you guys, transform medical device startups into commercialization.
Okay.
So
you do what we do.
I do what you do, as a matter of fact. So my need is finding that connection, finding those medical device startups, either through actual the CXOs, or potentially through VCs, or some other connection.
Or you can find them through, there's MIT Ventures, there's MDG that a lot of startups go to. There's Massmedics that runs startup clinics and runs annual reports, and we just had a VC funding round with Massmedics where 23 companies presented, and 3 of the companies were CEOs that came out of MDG that I've known for years. And a couple of those people were people that I've had the benefit of coaching and have known. So it's a good group. I can give you a list of where you can go for startups, but it's really not being afraid to get out there and go out to meetings and meeting people, because they're all over the place, people with startup companies and people that need people. At Massmedics, a lot of them were 1 or 2 people shops, and they need to build out their team. But they're looking for money. So it's the catch, you know.
Right, and my experience is that if they have VCs that they're working with, the VCs like to use people within their network.
Sometimes.
So, yeah. So
Sometimes.
That's
true.
a little bit of the challenge.
This is true.
Right.
But then we have to introduce you to VCs.
There you go.
So all that can be done. You can definitely give me a call. How about, nobody has a need for a company? Nobody wants an interview anywhere?
I like to consult with startup companies to start designing and developing the product.
Okay.
But more often than not, what I face is startup companies are looking for full-time. I had a lot of offers from medical device company for full-time, and I had to reject because I have my own consultancy company. I want to consult, but my challenge so far has been startup companies are resistant of giving consultants a chance to develop the product from the conception point of view.
Yeah.
One example is the wearable company in Boston was that they just wanted me to be on full time, and I wanted consultant, and I
Right.
interviewed, I aced the interview, but they just rejected my candidacy because they were not looking for consultant, they were looking for full time. And
Okay.
It's very challenging for me as a consultant to work with startup companies.
I understand. But you know what? Sometimes with startups, with risk comes rewards. There's a lot of sweat equity in a startup, but I knew I was the mission, vision, values. I knew I could lead the salespeople. I knew I could develop the marketing strategy. I knew that I could work with the physicians and the thought leaders. You know your skills. I knew John could do all the other stuff. So together, I knew that it was a good match. And when you're looking at startup companies, you need to look at startup companies that can utilize your skills. If you want to just consult with them, I mean, some people want you to be part of the equity and be part of the team. So as a consultant, it's going to be harder to get some startup gigs because they feel you're not fully committed because you still have your own company and your other things that you're doing. But I definitely want to, I'm going to get you guys to have your elevator speeches, but I just wanted to help a couple people with, if there was a company, for example, like Roger over there. I know that you were looking at Smith and Nephew, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Totally.
So that's just one of many, right? So I would ask the room, now I happen to know people at Smith and Nephew, so it's easy for me to connect Roger to Smith and Nephew people. But I would ask the room, who knows people from Smith and Nephew? And I'd look around the room and I see who has hands up, and Alan's got his hand up, and then I'd say, Roger, you're gonna talk to Alan later. Okay, that's how I can help you. I probably know people from all of your companies or all of your potential companies, but I also want you to help each other because that's how we each get better and stronger. And then you don't have just one contact at a place, you have multiple contacts at a place. Okay, so nobody has any desire or any burning desire for a company? Because I'll switch right into your elevator speeches because I'm trying to keep you guys on time. Go ahead.
Looking to get into Phillips Medical.
Phillips, okay, in Andover, okay? I can definitely help you with that one. I can think of at least 2 people off the top of my head that I know well, and look at the gentleman sitting 2 seats over from you, raised his hand, and anybody else? Phillips in Andover, right there in the back row, and then Dave Buzzio over there in the corner. Okay, so you have 3 new contacts plus me to go talk to about Phillips. See, that's how this works. It's supposed to be helpful. All right, so that's needs and leads. So we were talking about, John talked all about the hard skills. The soft skills are your written, your verbal, communication skills, your empathy, your vulnerability, all of those things, your ability to set the tone, to negotiate, to work out and resolve problems. Those are all leadership, management. Those are all soft skills. And what's interesting, I'll share with you an interesting statistic that I saw this morning from TalentSmart. And it said that 90% of the top performing leaders are high in their emotional intelligence. So in their EQ. Remember I said John, hard skills, IQ, Lisa, EQ. A lot of top managers, CEOs, CMOs, it's because of their emotional intelligence that they do well. I want to help you guys and ladies to increase your emotional intelligence. So if we looked at, again, your soft skills is about who you are and what you know. It's your personality. And I'd recommend this book. It's called Taking Flight. It's DISC, D-I-S-C. It's about birds in a forest. It's the easiest book I've ever read. It takes about 2 or 3 hours. If I'm coaching with you, I actually make you read this book, but I let you borrow mine. So, but what it is it's determining your personality and seeing why you do the things you do, and then looking at yourself in the forest with the other birds, and then it tells you how your personality works with these other birds. How does the parrot work with the eagle? How does the swan work with the eagle? How does the, and it's actually really interesting because it's really light reading. I know you might like sci-fi, but this is light reading. This is, John's talking about reading, you know, his documents. This is the stuff I read. It's a little bit of different reading. Proud to say my son takes on my side of the reading. Okay, so if you were a doctor, I'm getting you in the mode of thinking about hard skills and soft skills. What would be some hard skills that you would have as a doctor?
Science.
Science, anatomy and physiology,
Science, yeah.
absolutely. What else?
Drug knowledge.
drug knowledge,
Patient experience.
patient experience,
Diagnostic
Billing information.
experience.
diagnostic, testing, illnesses, and being able to interpret that. That's all hard skills. Okay. What's a doctor's soft skills? Patient interaction, bedside manner,
Or lack of.
or lack thereof. Empathy, good listener. So can you see now, a doctor has both soft skills and hard skills, and the best doctors out there, believe it or not, are not just the ones that can diagnose you. It's the ones that you actually like to talk to and can, that are there for you. Okay, so with this in mind, I'm gonna take your hard skills and your soft skills, put them together. We're gonna package it up with a brand new elevator speech for you that you're gonna bring home and be excited about tonight. And this is so simple, and I gave everybody an index card, and this is just so you could have your little, have something to put this on in case you didn't bring a piece of paper. And I'm gonna read you a sentence, and there's gonna be blanks. And then I will then read the statement with my words in it so you can have an example of how this is supposed to play out. And then I'm gonna give you a chance to do yours. So this is called your value statement. I help, aid, assist, or empower. So you will be choosing one of those words. I help, aid, assist, or empower blank to do blank, and that blank is what and how. So I'm going to say it again, and then I'm going to give it to you in an example. I help, aid, assist, or empower blank to do blank, which is what and how. Now, instead of saying it like that, you can now listen to it as an actual value statement, which sounds a heck of a lot better. I, Lisa Sasso, empower medical device professionals to achieve their personal and professional goals with confidence, accountability, and balance. That's my value statement. This has my hard and my soft skills, because keeping people accountable and in balance are more of my hard skills. Giving people confidence and helping them reach their personal and professional skills are more of my soft skills. It's all my little package. So what I'm going to ask you to do in just a minute is to come up with your value statement. And then I'm going to select some of you to share. Because you know what? If you don't do it here, when are you going to do it? And if you don't do it in front of your friends and get feedback, how are you going to get better? So I, Lisa Sasso, empower medical development professionals to achieve their personal and professional goals with confidence, accountability, and balance. And your how doesn't have to be 3 things. It can be with, timeliness, with exposure, with whatever your is. And if you don't have a how, and you just have a I help blank to do blank, that's okay. This is, we're putting the training wheels on, okay? I want you to have something, I want you to have a new statement, and I want you to be able to feel confident when you say it. And feel like you got something out of going here tonight on the 23rd, and that you remember this. And when you've written your statement, just look up so I know that you're done. And it's funny because nobody wants to have eye contact. Okay, in the back, I see one person with eye contact. Okay, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Oh, lost it. Okay, we have 11 people that have eye contact, so that's good. So we're making some progress. And I'm not saying that this is super easy and that this is gonna be perfect tonight, but what I am saying is, I'm giving you a formula, because, like I said, after being 31 years with an engineer, I think I understand think logic and approach and formulas, or putting things into a formula might make it a little easier than just coming up with something out of the gate. So does the formula help?
Yeah, I think that's all, yeah.
Okay, because then it's just more plug and play.
Yeah, okay, good.
Oh, you want to be first? You're, all right, you volunteered, go ahead.
I help customers to do their ASIC FPGA work with confidence and first-time success.
Excellent. Did you all hear it? But, okay, what you were missing, not what's your name?
Steve, yeah,
Steve.
helps customers to do their ASIC FPGA work with confidence and first-time success.
Confidence and first-time success.
That's
He's
the
gonna.
soft part. And
Yeah.
The hard part is I do ASIC FPGA.
Okay, excellent. Could you say, I don't know what your last name is, Steve, but
Ferris,
Farrister?
right? Ferris,
Ferris. Steve Ferris. Say it with power.
yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Who's ready? Who's got? Dan, you were the first one I saw your eyes, so I gotta pick on you.
Dan McCarthy, I provide, I help manufacturing companies drive out waste and improve quality by tenacious application of lean manufacturing.
Oh, I like that word.
Woo! Did you guys hear that
I
one?
like that word, tenacious.
Tenacious. Excellent. That was very good. That was very good. All right. You're ready. Go ahead. Stand up. Stand up.
Sure.
Power. Say your name. State your name.
I, Weber Shao, aid medical device companies to protect intellectual property and to monetize those intellectual property assets with an integrated, with an IP strategy that is integrated with their innovation strategy.
Excellent. Very good. Nice. And you came up with all that tonight.
Actually, from a couple of seminars just like this.
Okay. Good. Good. I like it. I like it a lot. All right. Let's see. I'm seeing heads going like this because they don't want me to pick on them. Alan's volunteering.
Okay, so,
No, stand up. Let the room see who you are, Alan.
So ElectroSurge assists medical device enterprises achieve their technical goals by applying broad, deep, and successful experiences.
Good. Very good. Did you all hear? Broad, deep, and technical experiences. Very good. Okay, Brian, I can see you. You might be back there, but I can still see you.
All right. So I, Ryan Donovan, work with engineering and manufacturing companies to help them review, optimize, define their product development processes. And then I help them tailor and implement a solution using product lifecycle management solutions.
Wow, that's a mouthful and a half, but it was very good. Excellent. Comprehensive. All right, Heinz is ready.
Okay, customer.
No, stand up. You're the president. You gotta lead.
All right. Customer F helps you get your product to market by solving your wireless problems quickly, efficiently, and professionally.
Excellent. All right. Yes.
I, Paul Sullivan, help project managers circumvent stone walls by off-the-wall solutions.
Excellent. He even brought his brochure. His poster board. Excellent. All right. I'll pick on you eventually, so you might as well look up and look at me. Celine?
Iceland, Whittam bridge the gap between West your role in emerging markets within the medical device sector by facilitating collaboration with cultural and
Very good, but you gotta be more loud at the end, because the last 3 words, I don't know if everybody heard them.
through facilitating collaboration through cultural and language skills.
Okay, excellent. All right. Do you, go ahead.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, you're going for it.
Yeah, I state your name. Attitude, I'm sorry. Yeah, I, Larry Rackman, assist embedded systems developers in bringing new products to market quickly, economically, and most important, profitably.
Profitably. Everybody likes to hear that word. That's a good word to put in. Okay. Ron, you have one? You're looking at me.
Yeah. I, Ron Goodstein, help aid engineers to verify their integrated circuit chips to make them bug-free, reliable, and get them to the market's result faster.
Good. Very good. Okay, who's next? Yes.
I'm Tom. I'm a student right now. So I help my research lab and the collaborators to develop a robotic system for prostate cancer therapy under real-time MR guidance, and is approved by the ARB for clinical trials, and the clinical studies that is currently ongoing at the Brigham and Women's Hospital.
Okay. First and most important thing, when you're up in front of a group, who are you? Did you say your name?
Yes, I mean.
Did you say it? Did I totally miss that?
My name is Tom.
Yeah, but what's your first and last name?
My name is Tom B. First name is Gong. Last name is B.
Oh, okay, all right. But you want to say it and say it with power, because the first thing people's going to hear is, I, Lisa Sasso. I want them to remember my name. Then they can hear what I do. If they miss the end, how, that's not a big deal to me. I want them to know who and what. And that's the biggest things. Because I heard the prostate cancer, I heard, but I missed the beginning because it wasn't, you need more power behind your name. Okay, who's next? You didn't think I'd be picking on you too, huh? See, I told you, this stuff to me is the easy stuff. What he does is, I don't know. Okay, yes, sir.
Good evening, I'm David Sherrill. I help you solve difficult problems in science and engineering, and I bring 10 years of experience in embedded software in a medical device context.
Okay, embedded software. There's other software guys here too tonight, so great. All right. Brian?
I'm Brian Ridd, and help engineers find new positions that enhance and improve their career path.
Great. Short, simple, to the point. Right on. Okay. Dave.
I, Dave Buzio, help companies to commercialize sophisticated products by understanding the product development process, partnering with global suppliers, and powerfully collaborating with internal cross-functional teams.
Very nice. You do a lot back there. Okay, man with the purple shirt that's kind of hiding behind the gentleman in the front.
I, Jeff Trigger, a property management professional, help clients accomplish success accurately.
Okay, great. Gee, I know somebody else that has that same last name. Would you like to do yours?
Okay, sure. I, Michael Krieger, help empower healthcare innovators establish and grow their business effectively through my wide breadth of skills.
Excellent. All right. Excellent. I'm scanning, I'm looking. Who, right here. Carol?
Hi, Carol Turgeon, assists manufacturing or development teams in highly regulated industries to meet and achieve corporate goals in the most expedient and profitable manner.
Very good. And did you do that here tonight?
Yes, well, I got some pointers from other people.
Good. You put it all together. I love it. It's good. It's good. All right. You haven't gone.
I'm gone. Hi, I, Steve Weisner, help medical device companies transition from research to commercialization through in-depth knowledge of the clinical experience, through mentoring, and through balancing both in-house staff and partners.
Very good. Nice job, Steve.
Thanks.
Okay, Ryan, Carol. Behind the, you came in late, but you were here for this part, so.
Hi, Arnie Buck, enable companies to build working product the first time by careful design, simulation, and prototyping early in the process.
Excellent. Wow. Very good. All right. The gentleman in the front row that won't look up at all at me.
Working hard, don't have one.
You don't have one?
Don't have
Well,
one.
we can work on it later. You can call me. We can work on it. That's okay. I was wondering what, I said, it was me? I've got perfume, I took my shower. I just, all right.
I'm easily
You were looking
distracted.
at John, you weren't looking at me though. I'm worried about you, honey. All right. I'm sorry, I have a sense of humor, I hope everybody else does too. Yes, thank you.
Engination will leapfrog your technology.
Okay, but I need to know your name and you have to stand up.
Okay. I'm Dave Bonneau from Engination, and we will leapfrog your technology
How?
with imagination.
Okay. Very good.
Something in
Very good. Chris, did I hammer you yet? Yeah, you're Chris.
Oh, no, sure. Hi, my name is Chris Kokinos. I'm a software executive who assists CEOs deliver their strategic products with efficiency and accountability to achieve their corporate goals.
Good. Very good. This is an impressive group. You guys do a lot of good stuff. All right, Roger, you're volunteering.
Sure. Hi, I'm Raj Bejan. I help companies deliver projects on time and on schedule by using a proactive, hands-on approach.
On time, on schedule, and on budget.
On budget,
Yeah, you don't have to use those words, but they tend to like that.
the budget part.
Yeah. But it just flowed, sorry. And let's see, in the back.
I help biotech firms integrate their plants and their systems by solving the orphan problems that fall into the cracks between disciplines. I'm a crevasse engineer. I fix the crevasses that open up to print and swallow your entire project. And if that interests you, then I want you to remember me, Tom Vaughn, from GSC Engineering.
Okay. And Peter, did you go yet?
No.
What do you think? People think if they smile like this that I'm not going to pick on them. And you guys can't believe that I remember this many names, huh? That's my skill set. Go ahead, Peter. And see, I could do a whole talk on just how to network and how to get to the next level, and I have so many other games and things that I could play with you, but in the spirit of the Patriots, I'm only doing this, and I'm going to pick somebody out from, actually, Heinz is going to pick somebody out.
Okay.
But go ahead, Peter.
Okay.
I wouldn't call on you and then just leave you there.
I'm here to sort of offer my expertise and guidance to leverage and exceed a medical device project through the development process efficiently and effectively to full implementation.
Good. Very good. Why were you shy about that? Oh. All right. Now, does anybody else who wants to go, who hasn't got a chance to go, show me your hand? And I see behind Chris is it. Oh, I'm sorry, Ed. I didn't.
No problem. I, Ed Dolan, help biomedical technology companies address the root causes of project failures and minimize the risk in future projects.
Very good. I like it. Okay, and behind Chris too is a gentleman that's totally blocked by Chris, 100%. Yes. Would you like to go, sir?
Okay. I, Rick Goldberg, empower companies to define and communicate the competitive advantages to their target customers through web content.
Excellent. These are really good. I mean, you guys just did this in a matter of minutes, and look at how good they are. And you can use this. And this is your elevator speech now. When you talk to somebody, you don't just have to say, hi, I'm Joe Schmo, da-da-da-da. You have something very short and sweet and purposeful. This is your new little special card. All right, and you know what you're going to do with this card? You're not going to go home and throw it away. you're gonna actually keep it by your nightstand, and you're gonna look at it, and you're gonna think about it, and you're gonna get up in the morning, and you're gonna think about it, and you're gonna think about who you're gonna say this to today. Just one person that you're gonna say this elevator speech to, on the phone, in a meeting, somewhere. And even if it has to be your wife, it has to be your wife or husband, okay? But you just, the better you get and the more fluid you are with saying this, the better it'll be for you when you really need it. So get used to it. And also for this group here tonight, I'll write you a little, anybody that put a card in my thing, I don't put anybody on a mailing list because I don't believe in that, because I get bombarded with mailing lists. But what I'll do is I will write you a little thank you note, and I will say if you want to join my motivational messages, I send one out each month. You're totally welcome to join mine, and I tell you how to subscribe to it. And also, if you become part of my community, anybody here tonight, I'll extend this to you guys. On Wednesday, I'm doing a conference call with my coaching clients. But I'm going to open it up to the people that are here tonight that bothered to come here instead of just sitting at home having pre-Patriots food. So you guys bothered to invest in yourselves, which is great. So if you do want to be on, Wednesday's topic is interviewing skills. So if that's relevant to you, you can send me an email. And by the way, I do have my cards, and I can certainly grab a card from me before you leave so that we can stay in contact. But without further ado, I think Heinz picked out a name. Who did you pick? Oh, he picked Chris. All right, Chris, you and I are going to talk about, we're going to do a personal assessment, so you can go on my website and sign up, and that's yours. Cool. Thank you. I want to thank Heinz and Ron for inviting us to be here tonight. If there's any, like I said, I'm trying to keep us on time, and there's so many fun things I could do with you guys, but I really am respecting your time. I hope, did we answer the questions that you have? Did we meet the expectations that you guys had for us in the beginning?
Went beyond it.
We went beyond it, that's good. And is there any other outstanding questions that either John or I can answer for you now? And if not now, like I said, you can grab my card and you can always shoot me an email later. And John is a professional consultant and works for several medical device companies, and I have my own executive coaching company, and I work with medical device professionals or people that want to be them. So that's it. I think they're good.